Oi oi, how's it going guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another episode. This one being the top 5, and this is my top 5 personal favourite playing methods. Now, when I talk about the top 5, it might well be to do with the complexity of the machine, what the punter didn't know, sorry, compared to the player, or maybe how long they lasted in the pubs. These could have spanned over many years in the UK pub and were highly popular between every single person in there. They might well have had lots of different chips or different programs, that's why they lasted. But the main difference really in these was the fact that they were continuous money day in, day out across the UK pubs. And that's what made a playing method so great. Now, there's always been a controversial question or argument between the player community, and that is, what do people prefer? Do they prefer the full blown empty, which is quick smash and grab money, but the company's cotton on, the pub's cotton on. You could fire up a pub, you can get barred from a pub. Whereas a player method can last for a hell of a lot longer. You earn less money, but it's continuous. You can sort of work your way around the pub routine, not necessarily get yourself barred. Pubs don't get so flames, all those sort of things. But it's all to do with money at the end of the day and what people prefer to have. If you don't mind waiting on and holding on and earning that money over a longer period of time, a player method is definitely the better thing. However, if you want to be smash and grab and earning as much as you can as quick as possible, then of course an empty is better. The question is very controversial. For me personally, I think a player method edges it. Reason for that is that, you know, in terms of all the pubs that are out there, especially where I used to play, there's a hell of a lot. And if there's a lot of these machines that you could play, playables, then it was worth doing that than getting barred from everywhere. But yeah, controversial question. So this here is the top 5, me personally, best playing methods. Some will include empties as well, so don't turn around and say, oh yeah, this one could be emptied on program 1. Yeah, I'm fully aware of that, but I'm talking about the playing method here. So then, with no further ado, the first one is this. Barcrest Alien. There was a clone called Leprechaun's Gold, both released on £70 en masse. This one here was actually firstly come around the scene in the £35 era with a release called The Big Chief and The Hulk. Those two failed test, didn't really stand their ground in the pub scene, and might have had some technical issues or something like that, but they weren't fully released. I did see a couple around London, but Alien and Leprechaun's Gold were the big releases. They only became really good in the £70 period. I mean, there was an earlier clone in terms of this diamond board profile that you can see here, and it was called Cash Attack. And I'm not on about the up and away clone, but this Cash Attack and this diamond board was brilliant to use. So wasn't a new concept by Barcrest. So they implemented this diamond board. They added a few extra features such as like a number reel with a different bonus. In fact, I don't even think the Cash Stack had a bonus. So this was completely new, and with that became one of the best playables ever in the £70 period. The reason for that was because they were extremely complex. Not any punter would have a clue how to do these. If a punter knew how to do these, they're technically a player in my eyes because they're that complicated. It's all about knowing which program they are for starters. There was like 6 programs of this machine, and they all had different ways of telling which program was what. The earlier ones were empties, but later on, program 3s, program 4s, program 5s were all playable. And you could trap a jackpot, and not just one jackpot, multiple jackpots, because they like to streak off either this corner 70 or the feature Out of This World, and occasionally, of course, Mega Streak in the top. So, all these features, or these corners, sorry, were ways of getting jackpot. Now, earlier on, you could actually buzz around a certain amount of money, around about £39–40, after it offering you a win, and the bonus becomes unlocked. Another thing that the punter never knew about. So you could take all these bits of information, build up the bits of, I call ingredients, a no lose, some steps, an extra life, maybe a lucky 7 if you're going off Out of This World, or if it's a program 4, and you could use all these, because it won't kill you on this bonus once it's unlocked, to get all those bits and bobs to manipulate the number reel to trap it for the jackpot 70 or jackpot off Out of This World. extremely complex, and because of that, they lasted for a hell of a long time. All the pubs had them. In the earlier days, around about 2009, that sort of era, they were all in the Weatherspoons. But later on, they lasted in pubs and arcades, and you'll still find them out and about right now. So, because for that reason alone, the fact that they were so complex, the fact that they lasted forever and they streaked, these have got to be in the top 5 of my personal playing methods. Now, when it comes to the 40 buzz around on this, I wasn't on that early. There was people that were making a lot of money off these from the early days. For me personally, I got that a little bit later, and I still made a hell of a lot of money. So it just proved how much potential money there was in this playing method. Huge, huge sums of money. Just quickly talk about another thing about them was because they lasted so long in all the pubs, they actually became worse because obviously they were getting done straight away. That became a bit of an annoyance. And the programs started doing a couple of things a little bit dodgy, I found. Like unlocking this bonus and then randomly hitting this alien and killing you. So they did become quite frustrating nearer the end. But all in all, a fantastic machine. So what I'll do now is I'll bring you back for the second one in my top 5 playable machine list. See you in a sec. Welcome back then. So number 2, personally in my list is this one here. Belfruit Gaming's Live the Dream, or in this case, Desert Island Deal. Now, where can I start with these then? Now, the idea about this player method was brilliant. And it was really easy once you got the hang of it, but something that I don't think any punter would ever work out really unless they really thought about it, because it involved manipulating numbers to trap the third red box or the third red phone for an invincible board. And it was all done really by this middle board. Like manipulating this middle board, moving in and out, getting the highers and getting the lowers, to get 3 highers, or 3 lowers that is, and moving out of the outside board, well to the outside board, either on a 1 or a 12. So yes, I mean you could do it the once off, but you have to really click on, and without sounding patronising, a bit of initiative to work this out. And if you had those sort of things, then you could easily work out this trick. But it only really was benefitable, well, it worked when it was dealing. That's the only time when you could trap one of these. There was cases at the very beginning that you can actually trap this to get the deal and then trap it again, but it's quite difficult to do. These spammed over a lot of chips, a lot of programs, and they were everywhere again. This one here was the later release, so Live the Dream was the first one, and yeah, a machine which lasted for a hell of a long time, and it actually upgraded to £100. So that's how long they actually lasted. You'll still find them in the pubs now. Really, at the end, and a lot of players will probably vouch for this, only in certain parts of the country, they actually released the dirtiest program ever, where you couldn't trap the jackpot, even with the extra life. But all in all, a brilliant machine. Now, all these little bits and bobs which I'm talking about, which made these so great, that was only the sort of half the story, because you could actually do these on 2 stakes, double staking we call it. So you can actually take a jackpot on 25p stake and a jackpot off 50p or £1. It was completely separate. On top of that, the bust was separate as well, like every deal there was out in the time. So there was a lot of money to be taken. But once the cash or bust had been used, you got yourself in a bit of a sequence really. You could either have 2 types of cash or bust sequence on this machine. It's either hit the big gun straight away, which would go like bust, 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 like board after board it says, and then finally go up and hit a 50, a 60 or a 70, or maybe a winning streak or something along those lines. Or it would do a real terrible shitty £8 bust one board, and then like £6 later you get another board and it does 4 win spins or 6 win spins, and it would do that and it accumulate about £30 of wins. So the cash or bust could either do 2 of those sequences, and to be honest, obviously the big one is the one you wanted. The little ones, yes, they were good to have because the cash or bust was separate, but yeah, all in all, it wasn't really worth it, because the amount of money it was costing for a board, yeah, it would sort of equivalent to the amount you're winning off the cash or bust. However then, and I say this, later on, cash or bust actually was not the greatest thing to actually even hit. The reason for that is that all the players started doing these, everyone knew how to do them, every man and his dog, and you could actually get this to guarantee deal if you did not hit the cash or bust within something like £86. Don't quote me on that figure, but it's around that figure, 83 or 86, something like that, 84, which meant these were pretty risk-free machines. Now, that meant you could go to one of these completely dead straight after another player had done them, and the most you might lose on one is £20–25. So they became even better, and for all those reasons, the fact that they could be double staked, the fact that they lasted so long, weren't as complex as the Alien, but still slightly complex, I guess, in terms of how you manipulate the boards to get your jackpot. These have definitely have to be in the top 5. So that there was number 2, and I'll bring you back for number 3 in a sec. See you in a sec. Welcome back then, guys. Number 3 on the list is Deal or No Deal Mega Deal. Now then, when I first saw one of these, I thought, what is this, eh? This big sort of arrow stripe that went up the side. Really difficult to get Deal or No Deal. It felt like that was anyway. And yeah, the board lasted like only a few seconds sometimes. I was thinking to myself, these are terrible. Only then did I find out that these were one of the best playables around in the 70s. Due to how many there were, again, and the fact that this cash pot at the top was completely free, this is what made these brilliant. Now, countless times, players out there would have made over £100 on these easily, maybe 150s and everything, but these were much more quicker to do in my eyes than other machines when it came to you know, getting the cash pot and it flowing correctly. Now that sounds a bit silly because the cash pot could either be given 2 ways. It could either be given off the normal box, so it actually just drops in cash pot, but the most favourable way, and the first time this was introduced on a UK fruit machine, was that it could flash up on your screen, LCD screen. So then, what this actually meant was that you could actually just be playing a deal, and as long as you have this one here, Super Deal No Deal, you have both sides active, you could actually get the cash pot out. Now, of course, that any person playing this would see this. So this became a little bit more difficult. It didn't really distinguish between the punter and the player, but what did was the fact that the cash pot was free. So what you could actually have on these is a 3 stake, 25p, 50p and a pound, all on £70 cash pot, and you could actually get all 3 out if you wanted to. It's quite difficult, it's quite hard to get luck, a bit of luck maybe with the boxes, but you could actually get all 3 70 cash pots out. But what you'd really want to do is take anything above 40, £50 and then just get a massive deal on the pound stake. Loads of times it would drop in a 70 or a 35, and that would be like obviously completely additional to the free cash pot you had. And then on top of that you could get a super streak or a streak off the 25p stake. All in all, that's about an extra 20 quid on top. So if you have one of these flowing from the off, which they did at the very beginning, you could get £70 cash pot followed by a £70 box and then a £25 super streak. On top of that, deal or bust, or cash or bust in this case, it is actually deal or bust, could land on any deals, and that was a bit random as well. So you could squeeze extra money out of that way. If it gave a mega streak during any board just off the super shots or the shots here, that was free. So all these bits of information made these amazing. But the reason why it's hit my top list was purely because of the scale of these machines, how many there were, and the fact that the cash pots were always high when you went to them at the very beginning. You just needed to find one on 70, one on 65, one on 50, and you knew that if it was dealing, you're going to smash it. And they lasted for a hell of a long time. A real iconic machine because it was one of the first ones to introduce the cash pot flash up on the screen, and that's what made these so unique. Right then guys, I'll bring you back for number 4. See you in a sec. Welcome back then guys, and what would a top 5 best playable list be if it didn't have one of these in? And that is a Red Gaming. Now Red Gaming spanned all the way from the £15 era all the way to 70s. This one here I've just loaded up because it is actually one of my favourite machines. Invincible holds holds a little spot in my heart which I'll never forget. I think the fact that these just played so good in a lot of pubs made these incredible. But when I'm talking about the best playable, Reds as a whole scale, I think, and all their releases, there was only a few terrible ones. As soon as they hit the £35 and they introduced this 50p button, which you can see down here where the cursor is, the percentage increase, sometimes you'd get a plus 6% up here. The machine would play so much better. But the main thing about these is that the fact that they lasted so long in pubs, and punters still did not guess or grasp the fact that these features went blue or green or red. Blue and green being the same. They just didn't understand it. They just thought that, oh, that's just completely random. Whereas for us, the players, knowing that 8 red features or more, of course dependent on the red because they did have different numbers of features. So say 3/4 of the features went red, we knew that that meant it had a jackpot in, or what we were praying for, a streak. And these streaks could go massive. Just for an example, an invincible for me, and I shit you not, I had it go red for board after board, and it went on a massive munch, and I got a 105, followed by a 105, followed by a 70. And that is just the example of a streak that could build up in this machine. Red Gamings could go crazy, and there were so many of them. They had different sort of different types of machines. Some had super spins down the bottom here, or mega spins. Some had this 50p button. Later on in the 70s, you had, if you played it on a pound, it would give you a super bonus as you went on the board, which would give you like an extra life and no lose, and just go crazy like a super boost and stuff like that, like Smash to Cash and you know, all the rest of the reds I can't even think of being put on the spot. High-low silvers and indies and crystal skulls and all the other great reds out there. Pharaoh's gold. That's another fantastic red. The list goes on. But these ones here, Invincible was my favourite. Red Gamings were a fantastic playing method. This kept players in the game for a very, very long time. And to be honest, without these, some of the players would have been long gone. And without sounding harsh, it's the ones that didn't really get the information, they relied on these. And that's why a lot of players actually quit after the £70 went, because these disappeared. So once these had gone, yeah, it was game over for a lot of players. But yeah, definitely within the top 5 list, I had to include a Red Gaming. Probably up there with the best. Not only did they do streaks as well, you could actually blag these coins, and if you get 3 red ones, you could get a feature called notation. That was actually quite a common thing for all the reds, and that could squeeze another 35 quid out of it. So the machine could go crazy, go red, 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 you get its top, streak, 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 and at the end it would be dead, and then just squeeze in 3 red coins, and then get a notation. So it was all those sort of things which made these the best, or one of the best playing methods ever to be out there, in my opinion. There was a couple of empties as well on them, but of course we're not talking about that. Red Gaming wasn't all about streak potential, but I'd say 99% of the time it was, especially between the 15 to £70 era. 70s with these were the best thing ever, and I'm not even joking you. Countless times I got boards on these with on a pound stake, and I didn't even have to hit start. I did not even have to hit high or low than the number. It would just give me the 3 icons for the top straight away. That's no exaggeration either. That's how good they were when they were playing. So then, I'll bring you back for the final one in the list right now. See you in a sec. Alright guys, welcome back then. So the final one on my list, and this one here holds a spot in my heart because it was when I first started off. These were everywhere, and it involved something unique which only one other machine that I can think of ever involved this trick. And that other machine, just for a hint, was called Hyper Viper. So the final one on the list is Extreme Gaming's clones, really. In this case, doctors and nurses. How many clones of these there were then? Well, bucket loads, most daunting. I think Blingin' King Queen was another one. Happy Campers, Jailbirds. I'm sure there's others as well that I've probably missed out. So these ones here were brilliant, and I mean absolutely brilliant. There was not one player out there in the UK that was not making money when these were out. because you could not lose on them. They were so complex as well. The fact that there was so much to them made these brilliant. Not one punter would ever work out hardly any of these. They might do it accidentally, but some of the things on this machine made these so unique to the player, and that's why they were so good, so playable. So the first thing that I would want to say about these was the fact that you could put a refill key in these and use that to trick the machine to give you numbers. Now anything holding past a 5, 6 or 7, trail held that is, you could put your key in just below the start button, turn it once and it'll give you a number. So you could milk the machine to to oblivion really, and just take out every penny that it had in its percentage. When that stopped working, these were still amazing. The reason for that was that there were certain real setups. So when certain numbers, say for example this one dropped in, that 1 in the middle, and it held, you could hold reels 1 and 3 with that in the middle and spin the second reel and it would drop in a 3 with a grape. What would that mean? You would have a bonus. So there was a hell of a lot of reel setups, and I mean loads, to get bonuses, to get extra boards. Of course you could do that when you was keying it as well, but these became so much better because they actually had percentage in them. So you could key the hell out of them with the numbers on the reels and manipulate boards. You could then get onto the board and do a couple of things. You guaranteed 3 spins. If it opens these, you wanted just to roll it, spin it straight away, hope it went a 4 to boost, and it'll boost into the middle to laughing gas. That's a quick collect £4 to £6. Or you'd pray for a 1 or a 12. Now this would go to 3 nudges or 2 nudges. Now at this point the machine gets itself all confused because it does see the higher or lower straight away. So it does know that you've got 6 nudges or 4 nudges or maybe a few more if you started with a few. But as soon as you shuffle the reels, the machine forgets that 1 or 12 even exists, which means it'll be happy to nudge in. Say I only had 1 nudge, it might be happy to nudge in that setup right there. Because what that means then is that you could then go higher than your 1 or 12 for the additional nudges for that jackpot. Now the machine held that in a completely separate percentage pot, which means that you could get every single penny out of this, and then the last board before you were walking, trap a jackpot and it repeat twice. You would send this back into the Stone Age with Mr. Fred Flintstone if that was to ever happen. It's only ever happened a couple of times with me, and it has repeated to 75. Obviously you're making massive on the machine, but it was a Bling King Queen that happened. Bling and King Queen, or whatever it's called. That's what happened twice on for me, and that is just a pure luck that it repeated twice, but it's completely separate. And all in all though, it does affect the RTP of the machine, but it just sends it back into the Stone Age. Now later on these were upgraded to 35, and that plus 6% came along with it, as it did with all the other £35 jackpots. That made these actually forcible, and what that meant was that if you got onto the board and it gave you a £3 start or more, so it had to offer you £3 start or more, you could force these out. And of course, if it was a 35, you could get these 5 heads along the side, and £35 though was only happy campers and jailbirds, meaning that these could then do a 105 or a 70 streak, and as long as they didn't cost nowhere near that, of course that was profitable. It was worth you doing it. So these were fantastic. Awesome machines. When these stopped trail holding at the bottom, you got off them, if they keyed. If they rolled a 111 when you got on the feature board, £1 here, 1 nudge and 1 super spin, again you would walk. That's because it would start costing you £7 or £8 to even drop in a number set, or enough numbers to trail held. These here, like I mentioned, hold a little spot in my heart because this was the first thing really, the era that I got involved. This is when I was young and the blood was pumping, all the hormones were racing. It was so exciting. We all know what it's like years down the line when it becomes a chore to do. You're actually going out and you're thinking, oh, I made 300. Whereas when I was that age, I was like, oh my god, I made 70 quid today. I can't believe it. I'm so chuffed. So looking back nostalgically, these have got to be up there with the best ever. Well, that comes my list then. Before I end the video, there were a couple of real close ones, and in fact one that would be knocking one of these off the list, and that was Deal No Deal Perfect Deals. For me, they're at number one with all of these. I can't get it to work on the emulation side of things, really annoying, but that would actually hit the top 5 spot. So excluding that one, the other ones which were very close in getting in there in my eyes were Pink Panthers and Rovers Returns. They definitely were up there with sort of playing methods and Cluedos and that sort of thing. Um, all the players will know what I mean by how many there were of them. You could go at £20 and come back with 400 every night. I'd say as well Red Mists, Deal or No Deal Red Mists. They're definitely up there as well because they were everywhere and you could manipulate them, but they were slightly more difficult to do and they were quite tighter, but they were equally really good. So that is my top 5 list. Thank you ever so much for watching. Like I always say, share the videos if you like them, like and subscribe if you like what you see. A lot more videos to come. I have mentioned in the previous videos, yeah, I've been very busy. That is very true. I mean, yeah, I've been out and about, as you can imagine. So apologies for that. But keep your eyes peeled for the next video. Hit that bell for immediate notifications like usual. All that jizz, all that jazz, as everyone says. Boring, yawn. Thank you ever so much, and I'll see you very soon. Ta-da.